Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? How is everyone on this actually really rather nice day? Can I just do the usual checks? Can you hear me okay? Can you see my screen? You should be able to see the Convertery app with a funnel called Demo Funnel with a coffee page in there. Can everyone see that okay? Can everyone hear me all right? Cool, we've got an okay from Edgar, we've got a yes from Edward. Excellent. We are looking good. Yeah. Hey Marla, hey Mark. Good to see you. So what we are doing today, this is our regular like getting started call. The idea is like for anyone who is like maybe you're new to Convertri, like maybe you've like just started your trial, maybe you haven't even started it yet, maybe you're just curious about the app and want a bit of a closer look, or maybe you've had it for a while but you haven't really dug into it and now like you want to get started properly. Like for all these reasons, this call is here to help you get started quickly. I'm Neil. I'm one of the co-founders. If you have been in the Facebook group at all, you probably will have seen me around. And you can also find me if I just flip to this is our like about page on the website. You can actually see me there. I'm the one in that rather fetching red hat. Scroll down a bit and you will find me. You'll find me there as well. So middle of the top row. So that is me. Normally, we also have Dan, who is down here from our support team. He normally joins me on these calls to talk about like some of the editor stuff. He can't make it today, so I'll just be going through the whole thing. But what we're going to do is we are going to build what I call a lead funnel. And this is basically it's a simple funnel where someone can come to one of your pages, they can enter their details, and these will then be captured into your autoresponder, and they will then be automatically redirected to another page where they will download like the freebie that you promised them. And we're going to build this entire thing like completely from scratch. It'll probably take, I guess, between half an hour and 40 minutes, maybe a bit longer, if we're looking at the questions, if we're going through some other stuff you want to see on the way. After that, I'm going to show you some of the nice little hacks I use, because I use the Convertery editor quite a lot myself, like both for, I mean, obviously for business and also for like my own personal projects. And so I'm going to go through some of the stuff that I do just to make using the editor very simple. Like there's a load of neat like alignment features, keyboard shortcuts, and just like ways of laying out the page so mobile works really easily. It's just a lot easier to like build your pages if you know this stuff. And sometimes it's quite hard to discover, so I'm just going to show you all these things. After that, we are going to go into just like a general question and answer session where you can ask me anything you want about the app. And I will do my best to answer. Basically, I'm happy to hang around for as long as you've got questions. So yeah, we'll be here either until you run out of questions or until I run out of voice. So I will should say as well, I will keep an eye on the chat as we go through. So if you've got a question about what you're seeing, like if you're not sure why I'm doing something on a demo, or if you're not sure how I got a particular effect, do feel free to ask. As I say, I'll be keeping an eye on the questions as we go through. So if you need me to slow down a bit, if you need me to show you something again, like do say so. I'm quite happy to like do that and explain what I'm doing on the way through. Only thing I would ask is if you've got a question that isn't related to like the demo that we're watching at the time, if you could just save that until the question and answer session at the end. I'm more than happy to answer it. It just like help us like keep on track. So can I, first of all, before we get into it, can I just check, like on a scale of like 1 to 10, where 1 is like you've barely even looked at the app, and 10 is you're a world-class expert, how confident do you feel with Convertri at the moment? Cool, we've got a few 1s in there. I can see a 3 from George. We got some 4s and 5s. Yeah, cool. I think that's kind of the right kind of level for this kind of thing. So obviously, let's say I'll try and keep it moving reasonably quickly for the people who already know what they're doing. But if you're not, let's say, if you're not confident with the app, if you want me to go slower, please do just say so. So the first thing we're going to do is, as I say, we're going to make our lead funnel. And we are going to build a page that looks similar to this one. Like, we're not going to go for an exact copy, but it's going to be this kind of thing, where we have like this simple opt-in page where you got this nice image at the back, the panel with the headline, with the body text, and a form for people to enter their information. That's the kind of thing we're going to be going for. So the first thing we're going to do is with this funnel, we're going to click the New Page button here in the top right. So Peter's saying, please go slow. I'll do my best to keep everything nice and clear. And like I say, if I do start going too fast, like, just say so. So this is our template selector. And you see there's quite a lot of templates to choose from here. There's a big long list. And you can also, like, you can type in like a name and it will find like certain templates for you to look for, so you can narrow it down that way. You can preview the templates. So before you choose them, if you click on the preview button at the bottom, Convertri will show like what the template will look like, and you can either use it or close the preview and just go back to the selector. Now, we're not going to use a template for this page. We're going to create a blank page. So I'm going to click on Create a Page from Scratch, up again in the top right. I'm going to call that Opt-in. Now, the reason I'm making this page from scratch is, I mean, first of all, honestly, I find it a bit more fun. But also, it's just an easier way of showing you some of the stuff that Convertery can do. When we come to build the thank you page for this funnel, I'm going to be like cloning this page and adapting it. So that'll give you an idea of, like, if you are using a template, how to like edit like those items as well. Because all the templates are built in Convertery, you can edit them just as much as if you build them yourself. So the first thing I'm going to do, like on this blank page, is I'm going to add an image. So basically, we just go back to our demo page. So this big backing image here, that's the first thing I'm putting on the page. So we'll go to the image icon in the elements bar here, and we're just going to drag that on, just like that. And this brings up the media gallery. Now we can see here, like, I've already got like this image already in there. I'm actually going to delete this because I want to show you how to upload them as well. Now you don't have to use your own images. You can, like, we also have the Pixabay API integrated. So if we go to search Pixabay at the top, then you can type in anything you want here. Does someone want to give me a suggestion? Something we can look for on Pixabay, just so we can demonstrate the kind of things you can find. Marla suggested lotus. Let's go with that. Don't think we've ever had a lotus before. So yeah, so you can see that Pixabay has come up with a load of lovely images, and there's a range of photography. There's some illustrations. Occasionally, you'll also find video. But it's a really useful service, and these are all like entirely like copyright free. These are Creative Commons. You can use them in any way you want, because that's basically what Pixabay does, and they provide some really, really high quality stuff. Actually, I think if we searched for like woman or slim or something like that, you would actually find the image I'm going to use here, because I did get that from Pixabay originally. The reason I'm not using the API to get the image for this page is that if you have a look at these images, you can see they're all like 1920 by 1280, that kind of size, because that is the maximum that Pixabay's API lets you download. However, if you go to the site itself and download manually, you can get far higher resolution. Like the image I'm going to use is something like 5000 by 3000. And that is like, it's a big image. Normally you would not want to put like an image that big on your web page because it'd take forever to load. But because Convertri does all the optimizations to make it load really quickly, you can afford to use far higher resolution items. So that's what I like to do, especially for images like this one, where it's going to be very big. It's going to take up quite a lot of the page. I like them to be as high quality as possible. So I've already downloaded that image from Pixabay. What I'm going to do to get it into my media gallery is I'm just going to drag it on from the folder on my computer. So just going to drag that on there, and you can see that uploading at the moment. Yes, it was a load of Loti, Ronnie. Is that actually the plural of lotus? Loti? I mean, it feels like it should be. Or is it lotuses? Lotopodes? I don't know. Anyway, so we have our image here now, and you can see like the resolution is very large on this one. So we're going to select that. And Convertri will now have this image in here, and you can just drag and move it around however you want. Now I'm going to make that full width by clicking this button in the Quick Actions toolbar. And now I'm just going to use these drag handles on the top and the bottom to size it the way I want. I'll just move that up a bit. And we'll drag that down. And you can see as I drag it down, you can see the amount of the image that's going to be displayed on the screen. Now I'm not going for, let's say, I'm not going for exact, I'm not going for like an exact replication of what's on this demo page. I'm just going to go for like something that roughly looks good. So like maybe we drag it down a bit more. Maybe we have a bit more of the woman on the screen for this one. Okay, I think that looks all right. And what we're going to do now is, so Ronnie is asking, so you're recommending we check images inside Convertri, but then go directly to Pixabay to download the high-res image? That's absolutely something you can do. You can search through the Pixabay API on on Convertri and then go to Pixabay and download them. I would normally only bother going to Pixabay to download the high version or the high resolution version if I'm using it for like a big background like this one. If I was just let's just drag another image onto a page as an example. Let's say this woodworking image here. Again, this one is, let's say it's directly from the Pixabay API. You can see by the size there. And we'll just select that. So if we're just going to have it on the page at like this kind of size, then to be honest, the size you get directly from the API, so directly within Convertri, is absolutely fine for that. Like that is far, like it's already higher quality than you're going to need, like for an image that big. I just prefer it like when it's when I'm using it like for an image this big that's going to be really the main event on the page to be like as high quality as possible. So that's why I do it that way. Yeah, smaller spot images, exactly right. Oh, Marla says the plural of lotuses is, or the plural of lotus is lotuses. So we've cleared that one up. Thank you. So next thing we're going to do is we are going to make the panels on the top and bottom, so the image just has a bit of a colored border. And to do that, we're going to drag the panel element on, again, from the toolbar. And again, we're going to make that full width exactly the same way. We're going to drag it to the top. And now I'm going to use this drag handle to size it to the bottom. And you can see as I approach the top of the image, you can see the snap line appearing, that pink line. So that snap line is representing the top of this image. So you can just snap the bottom of that panel right into place. Now we're going to change the background color on this. So that is going into the Properties panel, clicking the Background tab, and we'll click the Background Fill option here to open the color picker. Now we can see on the on our demo page, you can see we've got this like beigey orange kind of color. Now we could use like a color picker. We could get the precise RGB values if we wanted, and like just type them in here. So we could type in like RGB, 34, 67, 84. Let's see what that is. That's a blue. So you can just type that in if you want. Generally, again, I just kind of do it by eye, just by moving around the little drag handle here. And you can see as I'm moving the drag handle, the color itself is actually changing in the editor. So you don't have to like guess at a color and press OK and then see if it looks all right. You can just drag the handle around and adjust it until it looks good, like as you're seeing it on the screen. Now we want the kind of orange version, so I'm going to drag this slider bar on the left. I'll drag that down to the orange part of the spectrum. And we'll put that up there. I mean, that's a bit more yellowy than the demo one, but I think that's fine. So yeah. We'll have that. And now we want a same one at the bottom. So rather than do the same thing again, so we don't have to find the same color, I'm going to hit the clone button. Again, with the element selected, we'll hit the clone button on the quick actions toolbar, and that will create a copy. Now I'll take that copy and just go drag it down to the bottom. And this one I'm going to make a bit bigger because we're going to put a link in there. Now I have been asked on previous calls like this that we've done, is there like, why do I put these panels on the top and bottom of the image? Why don't I just use the image? And honestly, it's just because I think it's pretty. That is literally it. Like the bottom one, there is a bit of point there because we're going to have the privacy policy link on there eventually, and if it's like a plain background like that, it's a bit easier to read than if it was like over the image like this. But to be honest, for the most part, it's just because I like the way it looks. That is entirely it. However, we now have pretty much all the background of our page. So the next thing I'm going to do, again, I'll just go back to the demo page. Next thing we're going to do is make this panel. So with the text and the form in. So first thing we're going to do with this is we're going to take another panel element, again from the elements toolbar. We're just going to drag that onto the page. And we'll put it roughly the size and shape we want in roughly the spot we want, but I'm not worrying about this too much. At the moment, all I'm doing is just getting the elements on the page. We'll arrange them properly like once they're all there. Next, we're going to want some text. So to enter the text, all I've done is clicked into this text element. You can see my little cursor is flashing there at the moment, and now I can just type it right onto the screen. So 7 top tips for slimming without starving. And we'll drag another one in for the body text. Again, roughly around there. And this bit, every time I try and remember this like off by heart, I've never got it right once so far. It's find it hard to stick to a diet. Don't worry, so do we. These top tips will have you looking and feeling great without needing to starve yourself for 20 hours a day. So there, nice and simple. Now we need a couple of other bits of text because we need there's a bit of text above the form. There's like enter your best email, so we're going to add that on as well. And the anti-spam text at the bottom. So say, we will never spam you. Your details are safe with us. So we have all our text on the page now. One difference you might notice if we look at the demo page here is that the text here looks quite nice, and at the moment this one really doesn't. So now we've got to format it to make it look good. Now you can select on the text box, you can highlight the text, and then in the Quick Actions toolbar up here, you can change the font, you can change the font size, you can change the font color. There's like bold, italic, underline, the various justification options. There's quite a lot of stuff you can do, and you can do this individually for each text element. But I prefer to do it through default styles. And this is a feature that Convertri has that will let you set the defaults for the page so it changes every text element at once. So to do this, we are going to go to the page menu in this top bar, and we're going to go to the default text styles tab, which is the second one on the list here. And so here we can change, we've got styles for paragraph, heading 1, heading 2, and the hyperlinks. So for paragraph, which is like our body text style, we're going to change this to Lato. Going to keep the font weight as normal and the size as 16. I think they're fine. I am going to up the spacing a bit. Like the default is 1.2. I'm going to make it 1.8. Reason I'm doing this is because I prefer having like a bit of white space between my text because I think that makes it easier to read. So we'll say done on that, and you can see that all my text has now updated to my new style. Now this is quite useful, especially if you're like editing a template, because it means you can change the entire page at once, so you don't have to go through changing like each box individually to see how it's going to look. So if we were looking at this page and we decided, you know what, maybe I don't want Lato, maybe I want what else should we try? We've got something fancy in here. Maybe Cinzel. Let's have a look at Cinzel. So yeah, we've changed the default style to Cinzel, and this means it's changed all the font on that page at once. And that makes it very easy to see how it's going to look. In this case, like this is all a bit Roman. So I'm going to change that back to Lato. So they're like this. Now, what we're also going to do is we are going to set up a heading style for our headline. So I'm going to go to Page again and Default Text Styles, and now we'll click on Heading 1. Now, for the font of this style, I'm going to use one called Noto Sans. I'm going to take the font size down a bit, like the default is 36. I'm going to make it 24, just because like our box here isn't that big. I'm going to leave it as bold, because again, headline. This one I am actually going to leave the line spacing at 1.2, because the effect of having like this narrow spacing is that it gives the block of text just that bit more punch. Like it's a bit more grabbing on the page, especially when the rest is a bit more spaced out. And that's exactly what you want from a headline. So I'm going to keep that there like that. And if we click done, you can see that absolutely nothing on the page has changed. And that's because like at the moment, none of these boxes use the H1 style. So to change that, we're going to select our headline like this. We're going to go to More in the toolbar up here. We're going to switch that to the H1 style. And that is now taking the styles that we applied. So last bit of text formatting we need to do is we need to take the size down on these two bits because we don't want these quite that big. I'm going to make them 12 point. I'm going to center them. And this I'm doing individually rather than via default styles. Because with this, like we don't want all the text on the page looking like this. Like we just want these boxes. So now we have all our text in our little panel. And again, at the moment, it's a bit all over the place. That's absolutely fine. We are going to arrange it, let's say, once we've got all the elements on the page, and we'll do that like once we've got the form in there. Got a question from George saying, is it possible to modify the form with graphics? For example, having like a person holding the form and pointing the finger to the fields to add the name and email field. If you've got an image that looks like that, you can drag the image element on, you can position it so it looks that way. We don't have like form skins, as it were, that do this kind of thing. But let's say if you've got that kind of imagery, it's fairly easy to put together on the page because it is just a matter of drag on the element. And then just position it like exactly where you want. So there's no like button that will just do that, but I think it's going to be pretty easy for you to create. Edward's asking, like, can you select 2 boxes or more and change the text size for both at the same time? You can multi-select things in Convertri. If we just click that element like that, so we've got one selected. If I hold down Shift, we can also select another, but you can't change the text within them at the same time. So you can move them around together, or at least you could if I didn't click off the element before I moved it. So you can move them around together like this. But we don't currently have a feature where you can select the boxes like this and change the formatting of the text within them. So now what we're going to do is we are going to get our form on the page. So we're going to want to capture the name, we're going to capture the email, and obviously we're going to need a submit button so people can give us their data. So to do this, we're going to go into the form elements menu, and we're going to drag on a first name field, and we're going to drag on an email field, and we're going to drag on a submit button. Now you can see here we have a few elements for specific types, like first name, last name, and email. You can obviously capture far more data types than that. We have a custom text input. If you want to capture something else, you can just drag one of these on the page and set the type manually. Basically, the only difference with these fields is that the placeholder text and the form type, which is something that we'll cover when we're setting up the form, is preset for you. I'm a big fan of being lazy, Edward. It's one of the reasons it's actually one of the reasons we ended up like building Convertri in the first place, because we just found it like far too awkward building pages with the other systems that were out there. Like we wanted something that made it easy, and I like to think like quite fun. So yeah, laziness I do not think is a problem at all. Okay, so now we have our elements here. Actually, I'll just adjust the placeholder text before we arrange them. So to do this, I've got the form input selected. We'll go to input properties in the panel. And again, you can adjust the placeholder text here. So if we wanted it to just say name, for example, I'll just delete that up there, and you can see that again has changed in the editor. If we decide we want it back, we can just type it in. We will change the font family. We'll change these to Lato again, just so it matches the body text. It's generally quite good design principles to not have like too many fonts on a page. Our head designer tells me that 3 is about the maximum you should go to. So we're going to stick to Lato on that one, and we're going to put the size down to 14. And we're just going to do the same on this one as well. On the button, we're going to change the label on that. We're going to change that to download now. See, I've updated that in the panel, and it's updated in the editor as well. The font for the button, I'm going to use Noto Sans, again to match the headline. And you'll make it bold. We'll leave the font size of 16 on this one because again, it's the button, it's the call to action, it's something we want to stand out. So what we want to do now is arrange all these elements nicely within the panel. So obviously at the moment you can see I've just they're just thrown in there. You can tell they are contained by the panel because I've got the panel selected and you can see these dashed pink outlines. This is to represent that these elements are fully contained, and it means that if I move the panel, those elements will come with it. So you don't have to move elements one at a time. If an element, say this one, if it's slightly outside, and I select the panel, this one has no outline because it's not fully contained. And that means if I move the panel, that one will stay where it is. So now we want to arrange these elements. So with the panel selected and with all these elements contained within it, we're going to go to the alignment options, which is this button here on the Quick Actions toolbar. If we hit the down arrow, you can see all the different options that are available. I'm going to use Center Align, and that snaps everything into the center of the panel. And I'm going to select all these form elements. Actually, you know what? Down to your best email, I think, is actually fine, but I am going to move these ones all up a bit. And at the moment, I'm just hitting, I've got them all selected with the shift and click to select every element. And I'm just using the up key on the keyboard just to nudge them upwards just a little bit. I can drag them with the mouse as well if I want, but this just lets you do that very fine positioning. Now to arrange our form elements, again, I'm going to adjust the Download Now button up a little bit. Now I'm not trying to position all these precisely. What I'm trying to do at the moment is just get it so that the first name and the Download Now buttons are about where I want them. So I want the form to be about that size. And again, I can select the 3 form elements, so the 2 inputs and the button. And we'll go to the Align selection. We'll go for Distribute Vertically. And that lays all them out evenly. Now the email is pretty close to where it was meant to be, so it didn't really move very far. I'm just going to move that down so it overlaps a bit more, just so you can see more visibly what Convertri does here. So we'll select the 3 elements, again, shift and click to select all 3. Go to the Align Elements, Distribute Vertically, and all 3 of them are evenly distributed between the top and the bottom. Question from Marla saying, I missed how you centered. Yes, I'll just show you that again. So this is another alignment option up here. If we just, I'll just shift the, let's shift that text element over to the left. We'll shift this headline over to the right. Just like that. Just we've got things a little bit messed up so you can see the change. So to center things within a panel, you select the panel like this, so you can see the blue dashed outline around the element I've got selected and the pink dashed outlines around the elements inside it. Now I'm going to go to the alignment options up here, and I'm going to pick Center Align from the options here. And when I click that, all the elements inside snap to the center of the container. Your other question was, did you scoop up that element when you moved the panel? I did. Again, I'll just show you quickly how that works. So at the moment, like everything is inside the panel. You can see they are contained with the pink outlines, and so everything is moving within it. If I have this element like outside the panel, then if I'm just moving the panel like over the top, then like that element won't be affected. However, if I move the panel and drop it, so if I say drop it here, so that element is now inside, then when I pick up the panel and move it, it'll come with it. Now I'll just center those things again. And there, and I think that's positioned okay. We could definitely adjust things so that like all this stuff is more centered. Again, you can see the snap lines coming into play there to show you how that happens. But I actually like having like a little bit of extra room at the bottom. So I think we're going to do it like that. Chuck, I can see you've asked a question about the money sites. I will deal with that like at the end, at the end of the demo. Just so you know, I'm not ignoring you. Now, next thing we're going to do on this panel is if we go to the demo page, you can see we've got this like slight transparency effect, and we've got these beveled corners. So we're gonna make that now. So first of all, the corners. I'm going to go with the panel selected here. We're going to go to borders in the properties panel. We're going to switch this toggle on because that will have every border take this value. And I'm going to enter 20 in here, like for the radius size. And if I just deselect the panel at the moment, then you can see we now have that cornered edge. And again, you can change this to whatever you want. Like you can just move the arrows up and down. You can see it change in the editor as you do it. I use 20 again. It's entirely an aesthetic thing on my part. I just quite like the way like that level of cornering looks. The other thing we're going to do is we are going to add that transparency effect. So first of all, again, container selected, go to background, click on the background fill. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the background like totally white. And we'll just drag that into the top left corner like that. Now to add the transparency, we have a slider on the right, and this is the opacity. So if we drag it all the way down to the bottom, it's entirely transparent. If we drag it all the way to the top, it's entirely opaque. We want it like mostly opaque, but not entirely. Like we don't want it too transparent because that makes it hard to read. So I'm going to go for maybe a bit more than that. Like 70%. So you can just kind of see the outlines of the image in the background. So we now have most of our page. The last thing we need to do for the desktop version is add the privacy policy link. And to do that, we are just going to add a text element. Again, just drag that on. And just type in privacy policy. And you can see here, it's taking the default styles that we set. So this is automatically later in 16. I'm going to have that as centered. I'll also center the element on the page. Now to make this a hyperlink, I'm just going to select this text, go to the hyperlink button in the quick actions toolbar up here, and I'm just going to type the link in. Now I'm going to type the link into Convertry's privacy policy. Obviously, if you were building this page yourself, you would link out to your own. And we'll have it open in a new tab. Because generally, if someone's coming to a page like this, if they do click on the privacy policy, I don't want them taken like all the way away. I'd rather like they have the policy available for them to read, but I want them staying like on the page with my form on it. So we'll save that. And that is the desktop version of the page built. We still need to wire up the form, but we'll do that after the thank you page is built for reasons that will become apparent after we've done it. And the final thing we need to do here is check the mobile version. And to do this, we'll click on the mobile view, which is in the top right corner. And you can see that this is the automatic mobile version that Convertri has made of the page. Now, this looks okay. We don't have to keep it if we don't want to. Like if we decide we want to adjust this page at all, I don't know, let's say maybe we want the headline in the middle and we want the body text up here on mobile. Like we can adjust this any way we want. If we go back to the desktop view, you can see that's not been affected. So the positions on desktop and mobile are kept entirely separate. So you can adjust this, you can adjust the positions of these elements however you want without needing to worry about messing up your desktop version. So we'll just put those back. One thing we are going to do on this page is we are going to take this text size here down a bit. The default size that Convertri uses basically keeps the text size about the same size as it would be on a standard desktop screen. Because again, we're basically prioritizing it being easy to read. But you won't always want to do that. So in this case, I think I want it a bit smaller. So again, I can change it manually. I've got the text scaling up here. I can change that for every text box. But what I'm going to do instead is, again, this is something we can do with default styles. So we're going to go to the page menu. We're going to go to default text styles. And you can see there is an option here, default font scaling on mobile. And I'm going to take that down to 120. Just like that. And if we go back to the mobile view, you can see this text is all now smaller. And more to the point, you can see this text is smaller, but it's also changed this text and this text because it's following the default style. It hasn't changed the headline. A headline is staying at 150 because that is using a different style. And this lets us adjust all the body text while keeping the things we want big and punchy, they will stay big and punchy. So I'm just going to save that. So this is the full desktop version of the page. Does anyone have any questions about what they've seen so far before we move on to making the thank you page? Maureen's asking, how often do you add additional integration software to the list? We have quite a lot of APIs already in. We also have a Zapier integration, so you can connect with a lot of apps where we don't have a native API integration. That said, if you have a suggestion for something you want us to integrate, you can go to feature upvote, I think it is. So yeah, convertri.featureupvote.com. This is our basically feature suggestion board. And you can see these are the suggestions that we've had for features. There are some integrations on here, like Zoom, that one's quite popular. And if you want to get a feature on here, basically you just need to email support with the suggestion, say what the integration is, what you want it to do. It'll get added to this board. If it gets enough votes, we'll add it to our development backlog. Kim's asking, can you show us how to integrate a form with a CRM like Infusionsoft? I'll actually be showing you that a little bit later in this demo. We'll be wiring up this form to an autoresponder. In this case, I'm going to be using MailChimp, but the process is exactly the same for Infusionsoft because we've got the API for that as well. Okay, so let's move on to the thank you page. So we'll just close that. So like I said before, what I'm going to do for the thank you page is I'm actually going to clone this page as a base for it. So to do that, we're going to click the three-dot menu in the corner of the page up here, go to More, and then click on Clone. I'll just call that thank you. And this will create a complete copy. Now, there's a few reasons we're doing it this way. One is that it gives me an excuse to show you how the clone feature works, because I think it's quite cool. We just go in here, you'll see we have like a complete carbon copy of that page. Another is that this is like pretty similar to editing a template, because let's say they're all built in Convertri. You can do exactly the same things with them, like as if you built the page yourself. So this is pretty similar to how you would edit one of those if you were using it. And just like from a marketing point of view, I think it's quite good to give people a sense of congruence, like between two pages if you're directing them from one to another. So here, if we're keeping like this big background image, if we're keeping the general styles, that just says to people like they haven't been sent somewhere random. They've been sent like this is intentional. Like this isn't some kind of scammy thing. They've been sent to the right place. So what we're going to do on this thank you page, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the elements we don't need. So we're not going to need these form elements. So I'm just clicking these. I'm just hitting the backspace key when I've got them selected to get rid of them. You can also select the delete from the toolbar up here. And we're just going to change this text. So thanks for signing up. And we will give them the instructions in this little bit of body text. So we'll say click the button below to download your free report. And I'll just move that a bit closer to the headline. Looks better when there's rather less text in there. I'll move this download button up. Okay, you can see these snap lines here, showing that in this case, like in that case, it's to the edge of the text element. You see as I move it around there, that's the center of the container. So even when you're just freeform placing elements, like it's fairly easy to get them where you want them. And now we'll take this backing panel, just change the size of it up, and we'll move it down. So everything is a bit more centered. One other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of this, the background on this button. I generally like making this a nice green. Not that green, that's not a nice green. Maybe, yeah, a bit darker, something like that. Edward's asking, how am I selecting all the elements in the container? This basically is just something that Convertri does for you. If you select the container, what this is doing here is it's not really selecting the element itself. It's just showing you that these elements are all contained. So if we have, like, if the button was a little bit outside, like that, and I select the container here, you can see it doesn't have that pink outline anymore to show that it's not in this container. And then if I just move that back in, we'll just align that. Now, because everything is inside the container here, when I move the container itself, everything comes with it. Like Convertri will just do that for you automatically. If it's contained, like if an element is contained in another, like it'll be moved at the same time. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to connect our lead magnet to our download button. So someone can just come in and click it, and they will automatically have that file delivered. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the button settings, and we'll change the mode to download. And this gives us the option to add a file. So we'll click on select file, And again, you can see that I've already got this file, like the report in there. But again, I'm going to delete that, just so you can see the upload process. And just like with the image, I'm just going to drag the file on from my computer. We'll drop it there, and you can see it upload. It's as easy as that. Now you can put this is a PDF, but you can also use Word documents. You can have like MP3s, MP4s. Basically, the big constraint is that the file size itself has to be like limited to 40 megabytes. You can still like connect buttons to files larger than that on Convertery. You'll just have to like find your own hosting. You'll have to like give them an S3 link or something like that, rather than using Convertery system. It's just as simple though. So we'll now select that file. And you can see this link is now in the download file. This toggle here, force download on click, this comes up every time. So I'll just run through it for you now. If you toggle this on, this will basically force the browser to download the file. Some browsers, when someone clicks a button like this, when it's got a file attached, rather than download, by default, it will like open it in a browser if it's something like a PDF. And to be honest, I don't mind that. Like, I'm quite happy for that kind of thing, because it's still like they still have a download option after that's happened. Like the browser will give them one. But some people prefer it not to do that. They prefer it to force the download to actually happen onto someone's computer. And if you want that to happen, just toggle that on. Toggle it off, and it'll do like whatever the browser does as a default. So again, we'll save that, and we'll just go into the mobile view again. Now, in this case, again, this is the automatic version. And this one, like, I don't like this automatic version quite so much, mostly because there's just not as much content on here. So the automatic mobile version looks a little bit weird. So what I'm going to do with that is we are just going to adjust it slightly. We're just going to give it a bit more space. So with this backing image selected here, I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to resize that. And what that does is make the image bigger and move down everything beneath it. So we're going to get a bit more space in there. We're going to move this this box a little bit further down so it's more in the middle. And actually, something else we're going to do as well. You can see here this text is left aligned. Now on desktop, we definitely want it left aligned. Like, I think it looks a lot better that way. On mobile, it'd be quite nice if it was centered. And this is something else that we can do. So we'll just highlight this text in here, click center. So we can have center text on mobile, and it's still left aligned on desktop. And I think that looks all right. Maureen's asking, how difficult would it be to change the image on this page? It would be incredibly simple. Let me show you how that's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this backing image. So you can see these blue dashed outlines on the top and the bottom. I'm going to go into the properties panel again. And the very top item on this is one called change image. So we're going to click that. And we can pick like any one of these images now. Let's have a heron. So select that, and that's just swapped out. So it's just as easy as that. I'll just put that back. Okay, so what we've got to do now is we are going to publish this page. So we're going to click on the publish button here. And we're going to call that, say, Yeah, demo/opt-in1. No, we're not going to call it opt-in1 because this one's the thank you page. Demo thank you one. And you can see the full URL it'll be available on at the bottom here. So neil.convertery.com, because that's like the domain that I'm working on. And then /demo/thank-you1, which is what I've put up here. So we'll hit publish. We hit view page. And that is now live on the internet at neil.convertery.com/demo/thank-you1. So final thing we've got to do is we've got to wire up the form on this opt-in page, and then this funnel is done. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the arrow from the bottom right icon here. Just going to click that, and I'm going to draw an arrow to the thank you page. Now what this does is tell Convertery that if someone is opting in on this page, we probably want them to go to this page afterwards. So it'll give us like this page, like the URL of this page as a default. So we'll click back into edit page. And now we need to wire up the form. So to do this, we'll click on Forms in this top bar. And Kim, this is what you were asking about before, like how you connect something like a CRM. Like I say, this one is going to be MailChimp, but we do have down here, we have the Infusionsoft API as well. I just don't have Infusionsoft connected to this account. The one I do have connected is MailChimp, so that's the one we're going to use. But the process is exactly the same. So we're going to click on MailChimp. We're going to choose our list, and we have like our little test list for this kind of thing. And this gives us the different fields that are available in the autoresponder, and it lets us set the type for them. Now, what the type does is we are also going to be setting a type on each of these input fields, and Convertery will look, like when someone enters a bit of information, Convertery will look at what the type is on the input field. It'll find the autoresponder field with the same type and put it in that one. So in this case, we've set the type to first name, and email is fixed. We just got to make sure that the input fields match up properly, and we'll be doing that in just a minute. What we'll do first is click on Next, and that will take us to the thank you page. And because we've already published our thank you page, because we've connected it with the arrow, Convertery has pre-filled this with the URL. Obviously, you can write in anything you want, like you're not fixed to that thank you page. If you want them to go somewhere else, then you can just type that in, and that's where Convertery will send them. But Convertery will provide you with suggestions based on your arrows, and it'll provide you with the default automatically filled if you've only got the one. So we'll hit done. Now we'll check our types on these input fields. So with the field selected, go to form field settings, and again, check the assigned field type. Convertery has helpfully bolded the ones that are assigned on the autoresponder itself. So we'll call that first name, and this one is already set to email. And now we just need to save and publish this page, which we will do at demo/opt-in1. And we'll publish that. Click on view, and you can see how fast that loaded. Even though this is something like a 5 megabyte image, because Convertery does those optimizations. And now this page is entirely live. In fact, the entire funnel is entirely live. You could go to this page, you can enter your details. If you hit download, you'll automatically be redirected to the thank you page where you can download the lead magnet. We have the entire thing now set up. Maureen's asking, are all these changes auto-saved? How do you back things up? All these changes that you're making to the page, like yes, they just get saved for you. I think they're saved roughly every 10 minutes. Obviously, you also have like the save button where you can do that yourself. You can access the autosave backups if you go to the three-dot menu and in More. Again, there is an option called Restore. And you can see these are the restore points, yeah, every 10 minutes that Convertery has created while we've been building. So if something goes wrong on your page, you want to return to an older version, you can just select the one you want to return to and it will restore that version of your page. Marla's asking, I use Mailvio for my autoresponder. Is there a way to hook it up other than using an HTML form? HTML is what you'll need to use at the moment for Mailvio. Mailvio is on the upvote list. I'm not sure how many votes it's got at the moment, but it's definitely there. We can have a look at that. So we are, there we are. So Mailvio API integration currently has 18 votes. Obviously, at the moment, that's quite some way down the list, like of all these features. But if you want to, add your voice to it, then you can just come to this page. Like it doesn't require a login or anything like that. You can just click on like the Mailvio API version, and there will be a an add your vote option here. So if you would like us to prioritize Mailvio higher, then you can just come here, add your vote, and we look at this list fairly regularly in terms of deciding what dev work to do next. Okay, got a couple of questions I'll have a look at before we get on to the edit hacks question section. Okay, a couple of questions from George. I've saved a one-page web page as an HTML file using Chrome. Is there a way for Convertri to import the page? It can't take it from a direct HTML file, but if you put that HTML file on the internet somewhere, like if you host it with, like, I don't know, GoDaddy or something like that, like as long as that page is live, you can use Convertri's page importer, and that will take a copy of that page and rebuild it as close as it can in the Convertri editor. So yes, you can do that. Next question is, I don't have an autoresponder yet because I haven't decided which one to use. Is there a way to receive email when a person clicks on a CTA button? Yes, there is. If we just go into the opt-in page, I can show you how to do that. So if we go to forms, like we used the API connection in autoresponders to connect this, but there is also an option here called email. And if you switch email notifications on, this will basically send the contents of the form. Like when someone submits it, it will send the contents of that form to your Convertri account email address. So you can just have that sent to you. The prospect will be saved in Convertri, and you can do what you want with it at that point. And a final question from George is it possible to use Convertri as a typical info website instead of a funnel page? For instance, having menus on a page which lead to other pages. Yep, you can definitely do that. I mean, actually, in fact, our website here, like this has got like the menu feature. It is built as a website rather than as a funnel, and this is all built in Convertri. Like you can actually see the Powered by Convertri badge down there. So yeah, we have a menu element, which is what we're using up here. Like there's no custom code on this page, and that shows you the different things you can do. So yes, that's definitely possible. Femi's asking, can I use this process for e-commerce? You can definitely build e-commerce pages with Convertery. A lot of people do. Our cart is definitely better suited for digital products than physical ones at the moment. Though some people use it for physical ones anyway. And it's also possible, like if you need features that our cart doesn't provide, it's fairly easy to embed carts like Thrivecart is quite a popular one, or just like direct with PayPal or Shopify. You can just embed those buttons on pages in HTML elements. So yes, that's definitely possible. Maureen's asking, where do I store my lead magnet that is to be downloaded? I've just got it on my hard drive on my computer. I mean, if you do what I've shown you on this webinar, so connecting it with the Convertry's file delivery system, then we'll host it at that point. Like if you upload it to Convertry, then it'll be stored with us. The actual file itself, where I got it from in the first place, like that was again just on my computer. Edgar's asking, can you use video instead of image? Yep, you definitely can. There is, in the media section here, there is an element called background video. So if we drag that on, this, like the video itself won't play in the editor, so you're just going to get like this black thing here. But you can have that cover your section. Obviously, you can put things on top of it just like you can with anything else. You can add your video source file, and that will then play. And in fact, if we go to the Convertery website, you can see this top section has a background video playing, and that is done exactly like I just showed you. So just a background video element and sat on the page. In fact, if we go down here a bit further, I think it's on this page. Yes, this bit here, where you can see the element moving around. This is also a background video. It's just like the element itself was resized to be far smaller, so it doesn't take up the whole width of the screen. So you can get some quite nice effects with that kind of thing. Thomas, if you've got specific improvements in mind for the importer, then please do send them into support. We'll have a look at them. In particular, if you have any pages that don't, like that you're finding don't import very well, like that kind of thing is always useful to see. Okay, so I'll take a quick swig of water and then we'll move on to the editor hacks. So this page here is just a basic page built in Convertery, like designed for a cafe. And so what I want to show you on this page is basically a few ways of just using the editor, like keyboard shortcuts, that kind of thing, that I find make using it a lot smoother. The first thing is if you see like sections like this here. I mean, this is something that I was like also alluding to in the earlier section when we were building the funnel. Like if you want to move sections like this, you don't have to move each element individually. You can just select the container and move it with it. This also applies if you want to remove the entire section from the page. You just select the container, hit the delete button, and it removes the entire thing. Obviously, this will give you a significant space on the page to fill. So if we just switch on the element outline so you can see the construction a bit better. And again, this is quite a useful thing to see. on the page because this will outline every element in this pink. Obviously, you won't, like this isn't going to appear on your publish page. Like this is just a way of helping you like build your pages up in the editor itself. So you can see we now have this empty section after we got rid of that one. Now we could move all of these sections up to fill the gap, but that's a bit of a faff. So instead, if we hold down the Shift key when we have this selected, and if we move it up, we can see everything below the section moves up with it. We can also move down, and it does the same thing. So you can also use this for opening up space on your pages. If you have a wide gap like this, you don't want to drag it manually all the way up. If you have this top section below your gap selected, you can use the Remove Whitespace feature, which is this third one on the Quick Actions bar. Just click that, and it just snaps to the top of the element above. So that's just a nice, easy way of closing the gap. So also want to show you, another thing I want to show you is the alignment options. And again, we covered these a little bit in the funnel build demo. But I want to show you basically ways of using them together to get some quite nice effects. So let's take these headshots. And I'm going to clone some of these. And this is another quite useful keyboard shortcut. If you're using the Alt key on Windows, or I think it's an Option on a Mac, if you just have the element selected, hold down that key and drag, you will get a clone. So we have all our headshots here. And we want to get them like arranged nicely across the page. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to drag on a panel. Just send that to the back and then bring it forward until we can see these are contained. And we'll just set the background to transparent so it's easier to see the elements. Now, we want to get these headshots like spaced nice and evenly across the page. And again, using Convertry's alignment options in combination, this is really easy to do. So we have our container selected. From the alignment options, we are going to go middle align. This just puts them like the middle of all the elements in line with the vertical middle of the container. Then we'll use horizontally contained. And that just spaces everything nice and evenly between each element and the container edge. So if we just switch off element outlines, so you can see the effect a bit more. Nice and evenly spaced all the way across the page. Now just get rid of some of these again, because we don't need them anymore. So those are a few like little useful things in laying out the elements. But probably the most useful skill you can have with Convertry is laying things out so they work nicely with mobile. Because if we have a look at this page, if we go to the mobile view, then you see this, like this isn't really like what we want. You can see these headlines, like they've become separated from their text up here. The same is true of these headshots and their testimonials. The social icons, they're all right like that, but I think they'd be better horizontally. And it is possible to make Convertry do all of this automatically. So we'll just show you how that works. And the way what you need to understand with Convertery and doing mobile is how it builds the mobile view to begin with, because once you get that, like everything becomes an awful lot easier. So again, we'll just switch on element outlines again. Now, what Convertery does is it basically runs like a scanner across the page from left to right and top to bottom. So it's just running along the page like this, and as it hits elements, it's putting them into the mobile view. So over here, first element it hits is this one here with the logo text. Then it moves along, and the next one it hits is the We Are Open. It moves along, moves down. Next one it hits is the image. So if we go to the mobile view, you can see these are the first three that get added. So far, so good, but the next bit is where it all goes a bit wrong. Because here, Convertery is running along the page, and the first element it hits is bread, then it hits pastry, then it hits coffee, and then it hits these text elements. And so that's the order it puts them in here. Now, obviously, that's not what we want. We want to tell Convertery to keep these together. The way to do this is to have them contained. So just like I was talking about earlier, Convertery does understand containment. So I'm just going to stick a panel here. Again, center back and just bring it forward. So you can see here that these are now contained. And we're just going to do the same for pastry and coffee. Now, I'm keeping these with these gray backgrounds, just so you can see easily what's going on. They don't have to be colored. Like, you can have these panels entirely transparent, so like no one's ever actually going to know they're there, and it will work just as fine. So again, center back, bring forward. So there we are. And again, we'll just use the alignment options to space those nicely. And now we have the containers. What Convertery is going to do, it's going to scan along, and then it's going to hit the container first, and it's going to add the container to mobile with everything inside it. So if we go to mobile now, or at least it would if I hadn't adjusted it already. So Convertery's automatic mobile view, which I just activated by clicking the Remobilize button, now has these containers added with all the text inside it as we want. So we can do the same thing with these headshots. Just get rid of that backing panel. What I'm doing now is I'm just dragging these containers down, so they also contain the headshot. Just like that. Again, if we move them, we can see they are absolutely contained. Go to mobile, and Convertery has kept them inside. So the headshots are now contained with their relevant quote. The other useful thing you can do with these social icons to keep them together, again, all about containment. This is basically like the one key trick. So once again, we'll send that to back and we'll just bring it forward. Again, this will totally work if it's transparent. I'm just keeping it gray so you can more easily see what's going on. Now, if we check the element properties here, and go to the positioning panel, you can see the width of the panel. Now, if the panel is less than 300 pixels wide, Convertri will understand that it doesn't have to change it in the mobile view at all. So it won't rearrange any of the elements inside the panel. So here you can see the width is 198, it's less than 300. So we'll go to mobile, and it has kept them like just as they are on desktop. And this will be like exactly as they are if we like just move these. Let's say we want them in the top left like that. If we go into the mobile view, Convertri has left them exactly where we've put them. So you can be very precise in like the display that you want. In this case, of course, it's quite nice to have them like spaced out. So I just like middle align those. Again, horizontally contain, nice and even. And they're nice and even on here as well. Now, if we extend the size of the box, so if we make that bigger than 300, let's make it say 350, now Convertri will have to shrink the box to fit on the mobile view effectively. And if it does that, it will automatically rearrange the elements inside. So if we go to mobile view now with the container that big, you can see it's had to shrink the container, and so it's relaid out the social elements. We make it smaller again. They are back to horizontal. So if you build your page in this way, just have all your elements properly contained, you can have the mobile view do pretty much what you want right out of the box. And it makes things an awful lot easier to put together. Michael's saying, sorry I was late. Can we send a replay? Yes, there will be a replay. We are recording this at the moment. And in fact, we have, if we go into the knowledge base here, help.convertri.com, if you go into the Getting Started Webinars section, like you won't just have the replay of this one, you can also see the replays of all the other ones of these webinars we've run in the past. So even if there is an issue with this recording for whatever reason, you can still choose one of these and watch it there. Okay, so that is the full demonstration. Does anyone have any questions? Actually, can see one from Edward already. How do you shorten the page size? Because I think in the page settings it's 50,000 pixels. Yes, it is. The default setting in the page settings here, you can see the canvas size there is 50,000. Now, if you do want that smaller, all you do is change the number. Like that's literally all there is to it. However, you don't need to worry about getting this like precisely to the size of your page. If we just publish this one as an example, let's go with demo/coffee. Let's even spell coffee correctly. Basically, Convertri will publish just down to the bottom of the lowest element on your page. So now we have that page published. We'll view that. Now you can see that canvas was still like 50,000 pixels when I published this. But Convertri only goes down to the bottom of the lowest element. So you don't need to worry about like setting a bottom. You don't need to worry about like the precise size. Personally, I just leave the canvas as huge and just let Convertri publish to the bottom or to the bottom of the element, because you won't get like this huge white space. Yes, Chuck, you had a question about money sites. So do I have to have a money site hosted somewhere outside Convertri, or can I just use my main domain for a funnel in Convertri and skip the hosting on GoDaddy, BlueGator, and the rest? If all you need is hosting for your pages, then yes, you can do all that on Convertri. Basically, the only caveat with that is that Convertri isn't a general purpose web host. It's it is just for hosting Convertri pages. So if you want to have a WordPress site, for example, you will need separate hosting for that. But if you want to build your entire thing on Convertri, then yes, you can absolutely do all that on Convertri. You don't need separate hosting for that. Thomas is asking, how do you recommend the best way to replace WordPress and use Convertri for a 5 to 10 page site? Probably the easiest way is to just import everything in, and then set up your domain again on Convertri. There will be a small amount of downtime while the DNS propagates, but that's generally not very long. That's assuming, of course, that you have a site on a domain already, and you want to transfer the entire thing, so the domain on Convertri and the pages to Convertri. That kind of thing should work. That kind of thing should work absolutely fine, for something like a static site. Convertri isn't very good at blogs, so if you want to have a blog that you're regularly updating, I would probably leave that on WordPress. But since you're saying a 5 to 10 page site, that doesn't sound like the kind of thing you're doing. But for the most part, pages are fairly easy to reconstruct in Convertri, because you can take the imported version, and they're not going to be perfect. They're definitely not going to be perfect, but they are going to be a lot faster than trying to rebuild the entire thing from scratch. Certainly depending on the theme, you can have fairly big pages imported and fixed up in about 5 minutes. What are the best SEO practices with Convertri? Well, SEO, we have some SEO options. Again, in the page menu, see there is a meta info section here. You can set things like the page title, the description, the keywords, the no index and no follow that you'd normally put in the robots file. The social settings also let you set things like an open graph image. So all that is available. Although, to be honest, for the most part, basically, the biggest impact on SEO is going to be the content of your page and your linking strategy, rather than the specific platform. You have a range of SEO settings on Convertri. You have a range of SEO settings on quite a lot of other platforms as well. With Convertri, you start from a good base because Google likes the page speed. But you'll find far more impact on your rankings from your page content and from your page links, rather than from the specific platform itself. Edward's off for a pint. I absolutely don't blame you. Sounds like an excellent idea. Femi's asking, does Convertri have templates for sales products? We have a pretty large selection of templates. We just click on a new page up here. This is our template selector. You can see there's quite a lot here to choose from. Obviously, whether or not we have a template for your specific product will depend on what your specific product is, what kind of niche you're in. But there's a lot to choose from. And as you've seen, we can use, let's just select that one. So if I just take this random template and go into it, nothing here is fixed. These are all images you can move around, you can change, in Convertri. So it's not like none of this is locked in. You can edit this just as if you had built the page entirely from scratch. Marla's asking, is it okay to go to the Facebook group and let other MailView users know they can vote for integration? Yep. Yep, no problem with that at all. The upvote board is there so we get a good idea of what features our users like most, or what ones they most want us to develop. So we are more than happy to have other people. Although we're more than happy to have it advertised to our users that it's there and it's an option. Because I mean, you can't vote more than once. Okay, I'm going to have a quick scan just to make sure I haven't missed any questions on the way through. Obviously, if you have any more, please do keep asking. Chuck's one we answered. Oh, that's good to hear. Mark's saying, I recently uploaded a WordPress website to Convertery and the page load speed went from an F rating to an A for the desktop version. So definitely using Convertri and dropping WordPress going forward. That is amazing. I love to hear that stuff. Okay, I think we are at the end of the list. Does anyone have any further questions they would like to ask while you've got me here? Obviously, I'll be back in a couple of weeks, so don't worry about it if you can't think of any at the time. You are more than welcome to come to the next one we'll be running on the, I think that makes it the 4th of September, the Thursday after next. Okay, that looks like everything. So yes, thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. I hope you found it useful. I hope you'll find it easy to get going with Convertri. And now you've seen this. As I said, we are recording the call. This will go up in the knowledge base in the next couple of days. A link will be circulated in the update email on Tuesday, and I'll probably be putting it up in the Facebook group before that. We will be doing another one of these in a couple of weeks. If you want a refresher, next Thursday, we should have a special webinar on email marketing training. It's being run by a couple of guys called Rob and Kennedy from the Email Marketing Heroes podcast. They did a webinar on doing a welcome sequence last Thursday. That went down really well, so we're getting them in next Thursday to give up a few more secrets. So that's well worth coming along to if you're into that kind of thing. And yeah, in the meantime, please do go check out the Facebook group, have a look at the app, try out all the stuff you've seen. Yeah, Marla's keen on the email training. So yeah, actually we have the first part of that, if you haven't seen it, that is in the knowledge base at the moment. If you go into the training webinars section, we've got a few of them here, but there is one there, email marketing, knowing the first impression. That's the first one they did for us. So you can go and have a look at that there if you didn't catch it. So yeah, once again, thank you everyone for coming, and I will maybe see you next time. Thanks very much, all.